Shalom, my brothers and sisters. Shalom, and welcome to Less Than 10 Minutes. Words to Yashar'al, Nation of Believers. My name is Symmanayah, and if you're tuning in for the first time, you will come to know that Yashar'al, Nation of Believers, of whom I reference, are those who seek to do the will of Almighty Yehua, those who seek to worship and obey the Almighty Father, and accept Yahushua as Mashiach, as our Messiah. These are my brothers and sisters. This is my family, to whom this message is addressed. With that said, this segment, I want to entitle it, Famine, Hunger, Each Term is Intertwined. Let me say it again. Famine, hunger, each term is intertwined. Can famine or hunger fit into the category of a storm? Let me ask this question. Whether prophecies have been fulfilled or not, can similarities exist? In other words, if a prophecy has come to pass, would we possibly see something similar to that same prophecy reoccurring? Let me share a scripture with you. Amos 8:11. Amos 8:11. And it reads as follows. See, days are coming, declares Master Yehua, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger of bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yehua. Some translations use the term famine, that I shall send a famine in the land, and not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but a famine of hearing the word of Yehua. Whether famine or hunger, I believe these words are intertwined. Let us examine something. Massive food shortages are defined as famine, and hunger is a result of lack of food or massive food shortage. If we can accept this, one can get beyond the translations where one translation depicts a shortage and another depicts a hunger. Either way, they are intertwined. Let me introduce something to you. In Acts 27 chapter, I want to share some verses, and I will skip some verses, so I will encourage you ahead of time to consider reading the whole chapter, but these are the verses I want to share specifically to you. Acts 27:9 through 11 reads as follows. And much time having passed, and the selling now being dangerous because the fast was already over, Sha'ul advised them. Many of you might know Sha'ul as Paul. Going to the 10th verse, saying, Men, I see this voyage is going to end with damage and great loss, not only of the cargo and ship, but also our lives. But the captain was persuaded by the pilot and the owner of the ship rather than what Sha'ul said. Here we have a situation where Sha'ul was given a reflection of what could occur and what may occur, basically warning them that they would face a storm, but the captain instead decided to listen to another. Let me skip down to verse 18 through 24. And it reads as follows. And because we are exceedingly storm-tossed, the next day they began to throw overboard. And on the third day we threw out the ship, tackle with our own hands. When now neither sun nor stars appears for many days, and no small storm beat on us, all expectancy that we would be saved was taken away. So we see here that they wouldn't listen to Sha'ul, and so now they're facing a storm that is defined by no sun, no stars being visible, a storm that is described as something that was beaten on them. And there was expectancy and wonder whether they would be saved or not. I'm going to go to the 21st verse. And this is Acts 27 chapter. And when they had been a long abstinence of food, and I'm pausing, that defines famine, my brothers and sisters. Whether you want to say famine, shortage of food, or hunger. Because you know if there's an abstinence of food, then hunger exists. Anyway, it goes on to read, Then Sha'ul, standing in the midst of them, said, Truly, men, you should have listened to me, not to have sailed from Crete and sustained this damage and loss. Now I urge you to take courage, for there shall be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For tonight a messenger of the Elohim, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood by me, saying, Do not be afraid, Sha'ul. You have been brought before Caesar, and look, Elohim has favorably given you all those who sail with you. If you examine this, and like I said, consider the whole chapter, I want to go down to the 44th verse. And the rest, some indeed on board, and some on item. And the rest, some indeed on boards, and some on items on the ship. And so it came to be that all reached the land in safety. In this example, my brothers and sisters, we can see that a storm came. There was a warning. There was silence. Then man was eager to listen. And instruction came during the storm, during the height of the storm. I want to first encourage you to read the entire chapter again, chapter 27 of Acts. Next, I want to submit to you that if we examine scriptures, one can discover there are times of warning and there will be times of silence. There will also be times of action. It is during the time of silence one must ask the question, why? Could it possibly be a time when the power of Almighty Yahweh is demonstrated in such a manner only He will get the esteem and credit and no other? Could it sometimes mean a season of humbling in order to get one's attention? All too often, brothers and sisters, we dismiss live warnings from the Spirit of Yahushua, whether it's due to unbelief or just plain blind or deaf to righteous messages. This does not exempt us from our responsibility. We have a responsibility to discern when the Spirit of Yahushua is speaking to us, through us, one to another. I ask you, have Amos 8:11 came to be, and if so, could it happen again? If Amos 8:11 has not been fulfilled, what then will cause a shortage of the word from the Most High Father, and or if you prefer, a hunger for the word from the Most High Father? Could it be similar to Sha'ul or Paul's experience, where there were those who had selective listening skills? It appeared Sha'ul or Paul provided a warning, then became quiet, and when the storm strengthened, Sha'ul or Paul spoke out again and was heard and acknowledged. How many of us notice how those on the ship listened to righteous instructions once the storm reached a specific magnitude? It states in Scripture, Nahum 1:3, that the Most High Yahuwah has His way in the whirlwind and storms. Are we facing whirlwinds and storms now? Can we discern the face of the storms? Could they come in a variety of ways, from natural to man-made? How many of us have cried out, made attempts to warn people, only to be dismissed by unbelief? How many of us have obeyed the Spirit of Yahushua only to be ridiculed? Are we approaching a time when silence will be demonstrated until the storms intensify? Are we coming to that point where Amos 8:11 will make sense to us? Who is it that allows the storms to materialize? Who is it that commands the steps of the righteous and judges the actions of the rebellious? Who is it that established the blueprint of reaping what we sow? Almighty Yahuwah is His name, and no one can come to Him except by Yahushua, our Mashiach, our Messiah. Whirlwinds and storms of many faces are coming. This will mark a time of humbling events. These times will consist of the fruit of man's rebellion, as well as the judgment and wrath of the Most High Father. Are you prepared to witness what's to come? Who is seeking to discern living instructions and guidance from the Spirit of Yahushua? Who will have the discipline to be silent and wait? Who will possess the precision when to warn and or speak, and when to watch in silence until such a time as appointed by the Most High Father? Soon and very soon this will all make more sense to those who hunger for righteousness and discernment and understanding. Those who seek to dwell with the Most High Father in obedience, and those who seek to do His will experience understanding and clarity. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. Storms are coming. Nahum 1:3 will be magnified. Are you ready? Are you ready to witness the storm? Until next time, my brothers, my sisters, my family. Shalom, shalom, shalom.